And welcome back to RoyOnRescue. I just finished a live broadcast, but then was going through some of the emails and happened upon an email that just came in regards to someone who was providing CPR to their father. And though they gave CPR, their father did not survive the sudden cardiac arrest. And this individual is suffering through extreme guilt at this point, it sounds like, and a feeling of failure that they were not able to revive their dad. I thought that it was so important that I speak to this issue before the weekend sets in, that I wanted to quickly do a specific response, even though I've done other responses to this subject of when CPR doesn't work, how to handle the feeling of failure if you provide this or don't provide this and the person doesn't survive. But I think it's such a specific need that regardless of whether there's other articles out there or other times where I've left a video message, I think it's really important that I speak to the individual who wrote the comment. When I read your email and it speaks about the fact that you were providing CPR to your dad and you can't help but feel guilty, like you failed because your dad did not survive cardiac arrest. The first thing that comes to my mind, and probably the most important thing to reiterate in this message, is that cardiac arrest is death. As soon as the individual stops breathing and no longer has a pulse, that individual is already dead in a form of death called clinical death. In about 6 minutes, the body dies more permanently due to unoxygenated cells in the brain, the heart, the kidneys, the liver, other vital organs. So when we provide CPR to a person in cardiac arrest, we're not keeping them alive directly, but what we're doing is slowing down the inevitable process of clinical death to biological death, potentially temporary death compared to permanent death. And CPR only provides about 25% of the circulation of oxygenation that a human body needs to live. And I think the misunderstanding that CPR, if done correctly, saves people has been promoted for so long by instructors who maybe they're not paramedics, or maybe they just don't, or they're not other healthcare professionals and they don't understand the physiology, cardiology, pathophysiology of what cardiac arrest and death is. But when when we promote CPR as something that if you do it, it's as if we're giving them artificial life support. And so if I just do it well enough, the person's going to live, is such a wrong understanding of what CPR is that it can lead one to feeling guilty in the event that a person does not resuscitate and live after we attempt CPR. So the fact that your dad went into cardiac arrest means he had a severe cardiac or health problem. It could be that it came out of nowhere in everybody's mind, but regardless of that, whether they knew he had a heart problem, whether we knew that he had congestive heart failure, whether we knew that he had a blood clot, whether we knew that he had plaque buildup in his arteries, that's not what I mean. Regardless of whether it was a surprise or whether it was known for a while, the fact that he went into sudden cardiac arrest, he was already in a serious life-threatening complication. So much so that when he stopped breathing and he lost his pulse, he died. That is not easy to survive. Ever. So many chemical changes take place in a person's body when they die, even clinically, in the first minute to 5 minutes. It is extremely difficult to get them back. And CPR has never worked like a cure for cardiac arrest. What it's designed to do, and the only thing that CPR can do, even when done 100% by the book, is it doesn't stop the death progress. It simply slows down the transition from clinical death to biological death, in the hopes for us survivors that maybe an AED will arrive, maybe the ambulance will arrive, maybe the drugs will work, maybe we can keep him alive long enough to get him to the hospital, unblock the blocked artery, and maybe save his life. But there are cardiac arrest situations that it's so severe and it's so blocked and it's in such a bad area, no amount of CPR will save their life. As humans, and believe me, as a family man, it's hard for me to think about this, but as a paramedic, I can say every human being is born with a day to die. And it's never the right time to get to that day when we're a loved one who's left behind. But I can tell you confidently that the utter love, and this is speaking from a father's standpoint. I have 5 daughters. I have 6 children, but 5 of them are daughters. That when you gave your dad CPR, you showed your father and your mother the greatest love gift a person can ever give to another person. Absolute selfless abandonment, intimate connection. And in those moments when your dad went from clinical death to biological death, realize maybe he could hear, maybe he couldn't hear. Maybe he could sense what was going on around him, maybe he couldn't. In most cases, once you're unconscious, you don't know what's going on. But let's just say that he could. Your dad died in the loving arms of his daughter. And your mother witnessed a daughter's love for her father. It doesn't get any more beautiful than that. And if somebody has to die, isn't it wonderful that they can die with the love of their loved ones surrounding them? I've never, even cardiac arrest survivors, I've never heard that they, for the most part, felt pain while they were unconscious. So I feel pretty confident in saying most likely your dad did not have any pain, not from the CPR, not from the cardiac arrest once he was unconscious. But if he was aware, if he could hear, he knew that his wife and his daughter loved him. And that is one of the most peaceful ways to leave this earth I can imagine. You did not fail. CPR does not save lives. It simply slows down the inevitable. A little bit. And you did not do anything wrong. The only thing you did was keep the window of opportunity to revive open a little longer, so that if it wasn't your dad's day to die, he would have a chance at survival. But it wasn't to be. And your attempts to revive your dad was the greatest love gift you could give him. Be at peace. Be at peace. I hope this helps. From Roy on Rescue.